Yeah, I think we're all aware today that we're living in days of great misinformation, days of fake news. It's hard to know what's true and what's not. And of course, let's be honest, it's going to get a lot worse with AI, deep fake and all that. But, it's hard to know the truth. And of course, often we just believe what is read. Now, there's a point to all what I'm going to say in the next few minutes, so stay with me till the end, please. But, I think about and I do watch a lot of documentaries and so forth. I think about the JFK assassination, President Kennedy, the USA president assassinated in 1963. I was only 13 years of age, and so I wasn't really into it about it back then. But obviously, there's so much conspiracy about it. I think there's definitely a lot more. Most people would recognize there's a lot more than Lee Harvey Oswald and of course, Jack Ruby and so forth. But I think it's pretty recognized today that probably the CIA was behind it. He didn't want to go to war with Cuba, and so maybe they took him out. But there's definitely more than one gunman from what I've seen, and I mean, who knows really? But maybe the files will get fully released and people will find out. But I think the majority of people would say yes, there is more to it than what meets the eye, more to it than the propaganda that was released by the news media or by the powers to be. And I've also heard about and read about lots of different red flags events, situations where, that governments have manipulated things by even shooting down a plane and starting a war, all kinds of things like that. I've obviously lived a few years now, but I think we've all lived through the COVID situation. And when I look at that, and I'm not talking about the virus, I'm just talking about the fear and control of governments, obviously here in New Zealand, but across the world. They all just started to sing off the same song sheet, the new normal, believe the science, and so forth, so forth. And wasn't it incredible how people believed every bit of propaganda, which came out to be false, like 6 foot distancing? And people would yell at each other in supermarkets. People would scream, "Get back!" And if you weren't wearing a mask, which really didn't help at all. Now it's been proven. But the thing was, people put a mask on. I mean, it was just, and people were dobbing in their neighbors. That's exactly what happened, of course, with the Jewish people in World War II. And it was just such a shame. And so when I see that, I mean, that's something I've lived through, to see so much propaganda and fear and control by the powers to be to manipulate the whole of society to take a jab. Now, whether you believe in the jab, that's up to you or not. But then I think also, and I've seen a few documentaries on it, and you probably have too, and in relation to the 1969 moon landing. Now, stay with me. There's a reason I want to talk to you about this because of what's coming next. But the thing is, it's true that I've been to NASA in the States, and I've looked at the capsules that they supposedly went to the moon on. These little capsules, they look like a Model 10 motor car. I'm serious. I mean, they got gauges. There's no computing power in there. I mean, I understand that the average cell phone today has got, the capsule has 1,000th of the computer just in a cell phone. Now you think about that. Think about, all the geometry and whatever to get to the moon without the technology we've got today. But supposedly they went, and I've always said to Bev, I said, why haven't they gone back? I mean, if they could, it's a little bit like the first flight over the Atlantic, in an air balloon, like the first flight, of an airplane. And I think, man, if we're just stuck with that first flight and that's all there was, and we didn't develop airplanes to where they are today, jets that break the sound barrier and all that, I mean, but we haven't got just the same airplane that we had back then. Now I know they've got a space station, they got the shuttles and so forth, but they haven't been back to the moon. And if they could go then, it must be very, very easy for them to go today. And of course the excuse is, they haven't got the money. But and I know that they spend not just billions, but trillions of dollars on war. I mean, fighting today around the world is costing billions of dollars. And of course, it's not just the States that wanted to go to the moon. China, who's a very far advanced technology, they wanted to go to the moon. Why haven't they gone to the moon? Why haven't, the Russians gone to the moon? I was listening to a Russian astronaut, and he was saying everybody knows who's in the know of the Van Allen radiation belt that you can't get through, and they haven't found a way to get through yet. And the fuel that it takes to get to the moon. You've got to have 8 refuel stops and all this kind of stuff. And so, I know about the flag flying and, the shadows of rocks and the people's shadows going at different degrees. And of course, the dust of the moon and all that. I've read it all and studied it. And whether you believe man went to the moon or not, that's up to you. But people believe the press. People believe the propaganda. And it's incredible. And I know it'd be big pill to swallow, particularly for Americans, to think they didn't actually make it to the moon. I mean, that'd be disastrous, be one of the biggest hoaxes in history. I was listening to Joe Rogan and even the more controversial Candace Owens, and they had a person called Bart Sibrel, who's supposedly the expert on the hoax of the moon landing, and he had some very interesting things to say, and I'd encourage you to watch it if you're interested in it. But I think this too, that if the climate change people, because I think the climate change thing is such a big hoax today, planting all these pine trees that, I mean, they're the worst kind of trees you can plant, all this carbon credits, and well, every individual's going to get a carbon credit. This is part of what I want to say coming up. I mean, they're going to control what we spend money on and all this kind of stuff. But, the crazy things, all these great pasture land that's being put into, for the climate, put into solar paneling and all these stupid big propellers going up, spoiling the landscape. Talk about the greenies, talk about spoiling the landscape. But, if you really believe that the planet was going to cook itself and this is the end of the world, as all these young, unfortunately, they programmed young people now to believe, and they're screaming out, that they won't have a planet in 20. If you really believe that this planet was going to cook and die because of, man-made climate change or whatever, you would race to get to the moon. We'd have stations, we'd have houses up there by now, because, hey, if the Earth's going to collapse, why not go to the moon? Obviously, that would be the biggest investment that they would do if they really believe that this world. But of course, the climate has been changing for centuries. The climate actually has been hotter than what it is today. But that the propaganda, it's a scorcher, it's sizzling, and it was the hottest down record, and up until back until 1950 or something. I mean, it's like crazy. But my whole point of that is that people believe what they're fed, and you tell a lie often enough, and people believe it to be the truth. The fear and control, that's a big thing today. Surveillance is coming, and we know just so much cameras going up, and of course it's for your safety and for your convenience. All these things, we know that digital ID is coming. Whether it be biometrics or whether it be your fingerprint or your eye. Isn't it interesting? The Bible says the eye is a window to the soul. Of course, not only digital ID, but digital currency is coming. Digital currency is coming. It's, the Bible speaks about a day when you will not be able to buy or sell without taking a particular mark either on your forehead or on your hand, which is interesting, which is very close to the eye all the technology they have today. And facial recognition is huge. Facial recognition, they can spot you in a crowd, and they can scan a whole football crowd and pick out all the troublemakers. And so, this coming ID and coming digital currency. But my point is this. The Bible says that in the last days that even the elect could be deceived. I think a lot of people have been deceived over the years, maybe even of the conspiracies that I just mentioned, some of the things that I've just mentioned. People are being sucked into it. They got the blinkers on. They believe it. And so, it behoves us, I think, today to be very aware, very alert, and very discerning, because the day is coming when the mark of the beast will come in, and how it will actually roll out, I don't think anybody really knows yet, but it's going to happen. And when it does happen, we need to be aware, because the Bible says if you take that mark, you're doomed. Now you might say, well, that's scaring people, Peter. I don't want to scare people. I do want to warn people. If I didn't warn you, then later on the other side, you may say, why didn't you tell me? So I am saying that these days are coming. That's in the Bible. So, I'm not scared. I'm at peace, and you need to be at peace too. You have peace through Jesus Christ. And so I'm not worried about what's coming upon the earth. I'm just telling you what's coming. And so I think a great deception will take place. People will be deceived because of the propaganda that they're being fed. And I've seen that obviously in recent times, and I think we also have seen it in past days. So, hey, God bless you. I just wanted to share this thought with you today. So look up and rejoice, because your redemption draws nigh.